All right, folks, so I read it in one of the comments on the channel. Somebody stating when the prices are shooting up, it's like being in an elevator, but when the prices are coming down, it's like going down the stairs. And yes, it does make sense, right? But it feels like some of these folks going down the stairs still found the elevator going down the stairs. So I would like to talk about that. I would like to talk about the timeline because it seems like in this parallel timeline that most of Canadians are living in. With some, the actual impact is sooner than later. Some people get impacted much faster. Some people are lagging, and we'll get into that. I have some graphs to show you. But I have some samples, right? And it was very hard to find condos, right? Obviously at the peak. Below $500,000 to $600,000, right? Insane. But check this out, right? Like this condo sold for $335,000, and we're talking this East Liberty, right? Like that's in Toronto. So like that is shocking, right? So it's the question is, did somebody really had to sell, or they couldn't afford it? Was this an investment property, right? So it's definitely something to think about. Another one on Liberty sold on the 6th floor, 617, sold for $390,000, which means that most of these condos are rising up now in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, right? Which is insane, right? And thinking about it a little bit more, it feels like that the prices will decline even more. And then we're asking, well, why? I mean, most of people in this parallel universe or this feeling believe that we already hit the bottom a long time ago, right? And that nothing is wrong. It's just like a little hiccup. However, we have been seeing prices decline from 2022, right? So if you're looking at this graph, comparing different countries like Australia and Canada, New Zealand, Sweden, UK, and the United States, we see that Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, the home prices shot up significantly. And you see this orange line, that's disposable income. So just imagine the difference between disposable income and the actual real estate price, right? Versus Sweden, which is obviously the gap is much closer. UK, it's still heavy, right? Not as heavy as in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. But you look at the United States, like it is almost at par, right? Like the prices versus disposable income, it's almost at par, right? So it just brings me to another point. And I don't know if it's true for Australia and New Zealand. I heard some people, and I've seen some people in my comments talking about Australia, and they're saying, look, like we're just lagging behind Canada, a few months or a couple of quarters, but we're definitely heading in the same direction as Canada. But it seems like that most people are using the equity or this enormous jump in real estate prices to live their life, right? And they are borrowing against these properties, or maybe they're investing in some other third-party solutions, right? But this is definitely concerning. And now we're getting to the point where people cannot sustain themselves. On top of that, obviously, we have taxes, we have regulations, we have politics, we have the unstable global situation, which does not help. All right, so this little graph is showing the properties that were sold in 2004 for $282,000, right? Now they relisted it again for sale in 2025 for $1,175,000, unsuccessful. Then they relisted it in September of 2025 for $1,149,000. So this is like 300-400%, right? So now we see that it doesn't make any sense. And I remember 2004, right? And I remember that it was still tough and it was still hard to purchase a property, but this kind of property you could have purchased for, $10,000 to $20,000 as a down payment, and you could cover the cost by working a ordinary middle class job. If you had a partner, you literally had no issues whatsoever with $282,000 as a purchase price, right? And today, it feels like that the script almost flipped upside down, and we don't know what the success is going to be with this property because it hasn't sold yet. So who knows what happened? But moving on, another property that was purchased in 2020 for $730,000 just got sold for $560,000. So these are huge, enormous losses, right? And these people, probably, I don't know, like it'll take them decades to recover on some of these losses, right? So another interesting graph that I would like to share with you is this regarding the residential mortgage renewals, right? This graph is obviously in millions. But if we are looking at 2024, we see that 12% were renewing. That in 2025 jumped to 20%. And the highest renewal rate will be in 2026, which is just coming up. Now, having said that, we also had the graph. I had a video made on this channel regarding the spike of inventory that was happening between August and September in Toronto, that literally the inventory doubled, right? And by my prediction, and many that are predicting the same way, we all believe that inventory will probably triple in spring of 2026. And on top of all of that, like we will see all of these renewals and a huge impact. We did see the impact in 2024, which was 12%. It was minimal. Then in 2025, it was talked about a little bit more, and it's 20%. But then we see another 2026. And now you're asking why 2024, 2025, and 2026, but we have to trace usually 5 years backwards, and we'll end up in year 2020, 21, and 22, which were the peak real estate. And if we're pushing it 5 years out, these are the terms usually by the bank. I would also like to add that many folks did renew their mortgages in 2024 and 2025, and they only renewed it for a short period of time, right? Because bank sometimes allowed like a variable 1 year fixed rate close kind of thing, whatever, and hoping that next year or the next quarter will be a better situation, right? So I think the impact will happen, right? However you slice it, right? Like we have seen what happened to Jamaica just recently. It is very sad. A lot of people lost many things, and I will talk about it later in the video. But moving on to these graphs here, this is an interesting graph that I found that, these are the food bank shelters. And you see, even during the COVID, we have seen it spiked. But then just recently, look at the visits in 2025. It is 4.1 million visits. It shot up like this, right? So again, the question is, why is half of the population living in a parallel situation or thought process or pattern? Or the question to all of you guys is like, are we thinking completely different? Like, do they know something that we don't know, right? Because I spoke to some of the people and they're like, look, everything is fine. And I'm like, how can you think that, right? Like, I mean, it's either they're lying about their true situation or they're fearful and they're just patching it up just in their head. manifesting or trying to play a future video to their liking, right? And it's like, as long as they believe that the future is going to be perfect or it's going to play in their favor, it's going to be, right? Even though they're in a financial disaster, they're into debt to here and all of that stuff, right? So I really don't know how to explain that particular phenomena, to be honest with you. Now moving on, comparing the bear markets. So this is an interesting graph. We talked about this for months and months and months, even years at this channel, was comparing the 90s heavily. Many of you commented that it feels the same. Many of you commented that it will be worse, that it would probably, by some statistics or graphs, feel or be like the 1929 depression, right? So if you're looking, the orange line, this is the actual 2007 crisis, and we see that the Ontario 1990, which is the light blue, is kind of had the same patterns, but we see the Ontario current situation, which is the thick blue line. We see the sharp decline. We see where this is heading, and for some reason, like I don't know, like this is at least another 2-3 years of downfall before we see the bottom. Now, how the bottom is going to look like, maybe we'll see another 10% off. Maybe we'll see another 45% off. Maybe we'll see another 80% off, right? And many said, like, why that dramatic? Why 80%? And that is not possible, and yada, 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 right? And I believe personally that at this point, everything is possible, right? Because we are just getting into different category of combined problems, right? Because even like all these financial disasters, all these graphs heading down and stuff like that, they were mostly geared to a particular country or a situation or their internal issues and problems. And at the time, maybe, like if we go back 50 years ago, 30 years ago, yes, the world was connected, but not as connected as today, right? So if something happens across the globe today, it will affect us directly here and vice versa. So I think that that connection can hurt everybody on a larger scale. So we have to take that into consideration. Also, we have to take into consideration that I believe just like the general politics or the situation or like it's hard to decipher where it's heading clearly, right? Like there's so much data, there's so much going on. So what is the clear path for the humanity at this point, right? And then on top of that, like these conflicts that are going back and forth, they're actually affecting everybody. And then into all of that mix, you introduce artificial intelligence. That at this point, yes, it's not as powerful, but can it be powerful in the future, in the next half a decade to a decade? It could be devastating. And just think about it for a second, right? Like think about it. Like you have someone like IKEA, right? Like it's a giant, like amazing systems, furniture, the platform overall. It's fantastic, right? And they're closing a location down in Toronto. They're not closing all the locations across the globe and the world, and they're not going into bankruptcy. But why are they shaving down on some of these rents and people and all of that stuff, right? So something might be going on. And to be honest with you, I have been to that IKEA in Toronto. And it's it's in the heart, like in the heart of Toronto, but like there's like lots going around it, right? Like so, like exposure to highway as usual and all of that stuff. There are towers all over the place. It was busy. Every time I visited that store, extremely busy, right? So there's really no reason other than the fact of future predictions. Now, even talking about artificial intelligence, right? Like that's kind of learning what we're asking it to do, the tasks, the patterns. So what is it learning really, right? So I don't know. It's learning the fact that humans are greedy. Period. Right? Like humans maybe cannot be trusted. Maybe we're just doing all of the above to destroy all of the above, right? So is it gonna come up with a prompt to say, hey, look, guys, like maybe it's time to exchange this humanity to something better that who knows, right? So I don't know if that's the case, but like it definitely feels like it, right? And like even now, like what happened to Jamaica, like it's like devastating. Like they had winds of 175 miles per hour. Like that disaster was the size of Jamaica Island, right? So like when you see that, like it's like, oh my gosh, like now we're dealing with disasters, we're like weather conditions, political issues, death issues, financial issues, and it feels like we're not isolated. Like where are you gonna go? Like where are you going to go to say like, look, here I'm okay, right? So it's very interesting, right? And I bumped into a friend of mine. I want to share a story with you. I bumped into a friend of mine. He lived in Costa Rica. He was building real estate in Costa Rica and stuff like that. And then he told me, hey, look, you know what? Like, I'm thinking of going to Dubai. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this guy is going from one part of the world to another part of the world. I didn't get into detail. I don't know. Like maybe you can comment below if you know more about Costa Rica or Dubai or stuff like that. Like I understand that Dubai doesn't have taxes on income and whatnot, which we definitely have in Canada, right? And we feel it, like we feel it so much that our income, like it doesn't cover the necessities, right? So that's why, like again, the question about the parallel thinking patterns in your, like I don't know how some people have the abundance and others don't, like based on what exactly, right? So another story I want to share with you is a lady in a penthouse right here in Mississauga. Beautiful, like an amazing place, right? I visited it. I said, like with all the respect, like this is half $500,000 less than when we spoke last. And she was a little bit in a shock. She's like, well, I didn't see that coming, right? I said, well, at that time, I told you, right? Like my honest prediction, and many others, not only me, but many others are putting effort into this. And I asked her directly, I'm like, why did you think it's not going to get discounted or the price is going to fall and all of that stuff? And she said a couple of things. One, she said, based off our historical trajectory, I didn't believe that the prices could fall. Second, she said, I didn't believe that banks or the government will allow such dramatic drops. Like, okay, so I didn't understand that. Why? Like, you know what I mean? It's a free market, right? Like, it should be no interference, right? And the third is like, what am I supposed to do now, right? So, like, those are the questions now. Like, it's like people, for some reason, believe that that shell that they're in will be protected. Mind you, that's the generation that's before me and before many of you guys. And it feels like that generation from the 70s believes that it's untouchable, right? Like even they went through some of hiccups, but they say, look, like now it's different. Like they're saying it's different now. So are they scared or not? I don't know, but that's exactly what it feels like. So I hope you got some value out of this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.